Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we got a special guest joining us live, RevLimit Off-Road, Ryan Christenberry. What's going on, man?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Living a dream. Yeah, it's been, this one's been planned for a couple weeks, so had a bunch of anticipation and happy to finally get on with you.
Yes, sir. Got a bunch of my buddies and customers are looking forward to this one.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate everybody's support. It's amazing. The car community gets behind stuff, and it's still, it gives you a little bit of hope that there's still some family left in it.
Sure. It doesn't matter if you're into street rods, drag racing, rock crawling, off-road. We're one big family, and we always come together.
Yes, and
that's a given.
Yes, and that is, it's been really awesome to see it, because, you know, we kind of pigeonholed ourselves with the Hot Rod name and kind of took a little bit, hey guys, like we're not meaning hot rods as in old cars only. We're kind of across the board. Anything's a hot rod, you know, race cars, fast rock bouncers, slow stuff. You know, I mean, 54, we named it Michelangelo because it's a turtle, but it goes wherever I want it to go, so I can't really complain about it. So I guess let's get started with what is RevLimit Off-Road?
So, kind of like you said, you kind of pigeonholed yourself. I did the same thing. Pigeonholed myself with naming the company RevLimit Off-Road. I'm not limited to just off-road. It was at the time in the fashion, it just fit because that's what we did. But I really focus on RevLimit. I'm a hot rodder at heart. I grew up around hot rods. My mom and dad, they got married in '68 and bought a '68 Chevelle SS396. Well, my current rock bouncer / trail rig actually has the gas pedal from that '68 Chevelle.
That's awesome.
So there's a little sentimental value there. So RevLimit. My dad taught me when I was 14 how to rebuild a carburetor. Painted my first vehicle at 16. Couldn't tell you how many engines I've built. Sponsor 2 dirt track cars. Alec Griffiths with Griffiths Racing in Lubbock, Texas, or outside of Lubbock. But I also sponsor rock bouncers. Sean Cross. I sponsor him and his daughter. One thing that I pride myself on is I build differentials. I've been building axles for probably 22, 23 years, and I've never had a customer come back for warranty work.
That's an awesome thing to hang your hat on.
Yes. Same thing with engines. You know, I build an engine, they don't come back. They come back for additional tuning. I'm real conservative when it's not my engine. When it's my engine, I run that sucker on the ragged edge. But honestly, that's RevLimit is we build roll cages, full tube chassis. We've got a air over hydraulic bender. I use BenTech to draw up the chassis designs. We do 4-link, 3-link, 1-link, you name it when it comes to suspension. We basically do a little bit of everything. I don't do a lot of paint and body. I reserve that to my closest buddies. And anybody that knows paint and body understands why.
Yeah. It takes a special insanity to make a car straight.
Yes. And I am very, very particular. I'm very meticulous. So I can't make money doing a paint job. It doesn't make sense.
So what is currently your favorite car that you own?
Right now, I've got my late uncle's 66 C10. He passed away 9 years ago, and I ended up with his truck. And the reason he built that truck originally is because when I was 16, my dad and I built a 65. And so now I have his 66, and I'm building it in his honor.
That's awesome. So what's the plan for that car? What's the plan?
Drag and drive. I initially wanted to do small tire racing, but I don't like where small tire racing is headed. So I'm going to do drag and drive. I want to do Hot Rod Power Tour. I've been on Hot Rod Power Tour with a couple other hot rods that I've had. But my biggest thing is building this one. What's really interesting is a buddy of mine has a Toyota with a rotary engine, turbo rotary. And he thinks he's going to outrun my big block on nitrous.
A little bit of friendly competition then.
Very friendly. Very friendly. We might have been drinking that night.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it's all about, though, because, I mean, the first drag race was the day that the second car rolled off the assembly line. I mean, that's kind of where it all started, you know.
So what's fun, I've been following your build on that Model A. I had been helping my dad. He's got a 28 two-door sedan.
Okay.
That we started building. And we built a full tube chassis, 2x4 quarter wall chassis. Mm-hmm. I built the 9-inch. I built the 6-liter. I built the Turbo 400. And it's going to go on a 10.5-inch tire, full fender.
Very cool.
Figured you would appreciate that.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're going on a 275. 275 in the rear, 245 in the front, 20s. But mob steel. So
my 66 is, I'm going to run a 28-10-5 for big race and 275-60 for cruising around town.
Heck yeah. Yeah, the 275 tire here lately has made such leaps and bounds in traction and durability. I mean, I remember way back, you know, if you could make a 275 last, you were doing something special, especially if the car weighed anything.
Oh, yeah.
But with tire compounds and different, I mean, not putting, first time I think I seen a 275 on like a 14-inch wide wheel, and I was like, what are you doing? And it works. So
it works. That extreme, got a set of 12-inch wide wheels that I'm going to stretch that 275 on.
It's a little bit of stretch, but you'll still have decent amount of vertical sidewall to keep it from rolling over.
Right. So that's the one thing is I want to get back to is, yes, the company name is RevLimit Off-Road, but my heart and soul is hot rods. That's my passion. Also, own a car club that we started back in 99, maybe 2000, Southern Bow Ties. And that car club is very well known. We work with Toys for Tots every year. RevLimit Off-Road, we work with Four Wheel to Heel. We take wounded vets out on trail rides.
That's very awesome.
And we take them on a full weekend full of trail rides.
That's killer.
We do raffles and giveaways to raise money so that we can afford to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. We need more of supporting the people that, gave us this right to do what we do. We're not going to get into it, but especially with the climate that's currently going on.
Yep. No, hey, I agree. I come from a family of military, all the way back to my great-great-grandfather. Every male in my family has been military at some point in time. My brother, he retired from the Air Force, and he is a LEO in Missouri.
Another job that's thankless. But thank everybody. We'll take a minute right now to say thank you to everyone that served, whether it's family or yourself. Thank you for your service.
I agree.
Because God bless America.
For sure.
They gave up a lot so we can do what we do, and we enjoy these liberties.
You're definitely right.
So,
my brother was put in some very precarious situations when he was over in the desert. All I can say is I'm thankful that he was able to come home.
Yep, very true. So.
Anyways.
So, unlimited budget. What car are you building?
What car am I gonna? What would I build? A '68 Chevelle SS 396.
Fair enough.
That's if it wasn't that, it would be a '55 two-door sedan.
Okay, like the sedan over the Bel Airs.
I like the post cars.
I agree.
I like the simplicity, and I like the structure the post gives.
Yes, that's. I agree with you.
Because I am a horsepower junkie, so I need that chassis and that body to be able to soak up all the torque and all the just hatred I'm going to put to it.
Yeah, that was we went overboard when me and Britton with BP Customs, who's building the Model A chassis. Shout out to them again. When we talked, he was like, "Well, I could build it 2x4 this, or I could build it 2x4," and I was like, "Build it for in case I ever, can't afford a blower or more power than, because the small block we're building for it's tri-power. It's got a comp big mother thumper cam, so it's gonna sound nasty, but I didn't really put any. It still has stock pistons. It's still, I didn't really put anything in it to make it so nasty that it's not a pleasure to drive, but it's gonna have some rumble.
Right.
Kick, hog ass cam.
Yeah, it's got to have a little chop to it.
Yeah, so that one seemed to. I did a lot of research, and that one seemed to be the cam that was going to give me the best sound for the other parts in the motor. So that'll be because I didn't really want it obnoxious either, because I'm not really running any exhaust to speak of. It's just going to have lakeside pipes. So.
Right. And this thing with the 66, it's either getting a 498 that I've already got built, or it's going to get a 505 big block Chevy.
Oh, big mountain.
And it's going to get about 3, maybe 400 shot of dual stage juice.
Okay.
I want it to be really rowdy.
So what you're saying is you're on the nitrous side of things.
I love nitrous. Yes. Turbos, run turbo, but it's always been on a diesel.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't run one on a gas engine. I like nitrous. We took it was probably 18, 19 years ago. We were sitting around in a garage, and a buddy of ours was there, and they said, "Hey, you've got that third gen Camaro, and there's a 500 Caddy. I bet you can't put that engine in that car." Well, the next weekend we had that 500 Caddy in that third gen Camaro.
That's a shoehorn and a half.
We were at Red Line Raceway out in East Texas, and we had a 10.5-inch tire, had a basic cage, and we put nitrous to it. So, great engine. It was a complete dog. You know, those Caddy 5, they don't RPM for crap.
No.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. So we started out with a 275 shot of nitrous on a plate system. It was respectable. Well, we ran out of pills. So what did we do? We grabbed a drill bit. We drilled those nitrous pills to an 1/8 inch, which anybody that knows nitrous, that is over 300 horsepower.
Yes, that's
the whole point. Jason wanted to blow the intake off of that damn thing, and it never happened. We pulled up, and that little third gen was painted all kinds of different colors, and the track announcer said, "Hey, here comes the clown car." And I told Jason, I said, "I want a John Force burnout. I want you to juice it and warm those tires up, and then when you launch, I want juice right out of the hole." And that damn thing ran a 595 in the 8th mile. Bone stock 500 Caddy with a 273 gear.
Yeah, when we were running the S10, me and my dad, well, more my dad, I was real young, but we built a little S10 82, no cage, small, little warmed up small block street motor, turbo 350 or turbo 400, one of them. Real simple. This is 2001-ish, and we were running at the local track, and there was a S10 Blazer that came out, and it was 2 guys, and they were like hot lapping it. They were just switching helmets and taking it down the track, but they pulled up, purged the nitrous, launched, probably front end come up, I don't know, 2 or 3 foot. They come back, they're under the hood, more jet, come up, launched it again, it maybe come up 4 foot that time, 5 foot, 6 foot, and then you seen them under the hood, and they were wrenching, and they were about to make something happen. It was either going to go or it was going to go to the moon, and they pulled around, and They launched the car and it went up on the bumper, and the dude probably shit his pants. So he jabbed all the brakes he could have, but the back tires were off the ground. But when they come back down, it slammed. Front wheels laid out, oil pan goes, he gets out. We're thinking they're going to be pissed off. He jumping up and down on the hood. It's the best, it was the best thing ever for them. And my dad, it was just a naturally aspirated small block. One of the other guys, God rest his soul, he passed away a little while ago, but he was kind of the crew chief. And I was like, God, man, that's what nitrous does. Because he has had a 68 Camaro that's rotten to the ground right now, because he put it up and it never came back out, and then family stuff and everything like that. And I have to drive by it every day and look at it, and I know what's underneath that car cover, but nobody's messing with it. And he's like, yeah, that's nitrous. And I was like, I don't know if I like nitrous. And I blew a car up on nitrous later in life, and then turbos were just cheap.
Oh, yeah. No, I have nothing against
let me
turbos.
clarify that. Chinese turbos are cheap. Precision and actually good quality turbos are not.
Yeah. No. I got one for you. We were in Mexico racing. This is back in, the mid-'90s. And we were on Forest Lane in Mexico.
Yeah, just outside of Texarkana?
No, over here in DFW.
Oh, okay. DFW, Mexico. Suarez, Mexico.
Yes, exactly. So Jason and I showed up, and we were in a 69 Chevy C10 long wheelbase on a small tire, and we had a bottle that was sitting between my legs. And he goes, when that flashlight goes, I need you to open that bottle. That was the controller of the nitrous. Was open in the bottle.
Hey, whatever works.
We won.
That's all that matters at that point. That's in that side of racing, you just got to make one pass. That's all that matters.
That's all it was. He goes, all we got to do is make this race and figure out how we're going to get home if we blow this sucker up.
Yeah. Certain TV shows have made it look like you race 5 or 12 or 15 times in a night. No, you make one pass and then you get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yes. And unfortunately, like I say, that's back in the late 90s. So we didn't have, Facebook, YouTube. We didn't have anything to take video. So you just have to trust, us old guys that we're telling you the truth.
Yep.
We were there. We just have no proof of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes less social media would be better.
I am going to agree with you 110%.
We talk about that in all aspects of the car community. Builds. You used to wait for big shows to go see what somebody was bringing out, whether it was, if you were in mini trucks, you waited for Slamfest, you waited for, mini nats. If you were into hot rods, you waited for the Grand National or Detroit Autorama or Turkey or, these bigger shows, World of Wheels, Good Guys. Everybody had you didn't really know what anybody was bringing. So, and the same with racing, you didn't know, you could pretty much watch a YouTube video of any of these guys that are racing, whether they're no prep, whether they're street, whether they're whatever, and you could pretty much say what they're running
We can figure out what they're going to run. which I love with my buddy that's got the rotary car. He has no clue what I'm going to run. I have no clue what he's going to run.
Yeah.
We're just going to show up and see whose balls are bigger.
Them rotary motors, they can make some power because you can wind them up for years. They love that RPM. I mean, it might need 6 quarts of oil by the end of the track, but it'll RPM.
Yes, they will.
So,
but they don't pull the torque a big block does.
No. Well, I mean, for the amount of motor, I mean, you got 3 or 4 Dorito chips compared to, 5-inch pistons.
Right. For the 498 is a 4127,
and a lot of stroke.
A lot of stroke.
Yeah.
But a lot of nitrous.
Well,
whereas he's got a lot of turbo, and he's getting it tuned where his brother works in Garland, and I'm going up against tuning of a multinational winner.
Mm-hmm.
And my shit is built. I built it in my garage and just tuning what it likes. Whereas he has a dyno that he can tune on.
Yeah. And that's part of the progression of everything. I mean, with fuel injection and computers and timers and, that there's so much advantage that there wasn't 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But,
thinking back, rebuilding my first carburetor when I was 14, that was back in 87, 88. And to see how things have progressed since then is amazing.
I mean, even carburetor technology.
Yes.
It used to be if you had, if you were at a drag strip or somewhere and you seen an old guy in overalls and New Balances walk into a car with a screwdriver, that's probably not the guy you want to line up next pass because it's about to come alive. And now it's laptops and telling stuff, you're not even adjusting timing anymore by hand. You're just dial it in the computer. Extra buttons.
I am that old guy. My birthday was yesterday. I just turned 49. So I'm really not that old. However, I am that old guy that shows up at drag races full analog. I'm going to jet, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on that carburetor and make it run at its peak performance without a laptop. Now, my customers will tune with a laptop because I have HP tuners. I do LS swaps. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, I want a carburetor.
Oh, and my Harley still has a carburetor on it. Mm-hmm. My hot rod's going to have 3 of them on it. They're about the same size.
There you go. There you go.
But, I had to admit, my dad had a dyno iGlide with fuel injection, and I would admit it's a better fuel system. But my 45 Mikuni hanging off the side of the bike said something. It made a statement. So, the three deuce intake, the 3 Super 97s on the top of the Model A, You know, I could have put an LS in it, but to me, LS motors are ugly on anything that, you know, you're not running a hood, and that car is never going to have a hood or sides on it. So I made a small block Chevrolet look a little more pretty and grungy, and that's kind of what we're going for, is the grungy, you know, driver car. You know, and that car, when I first had it in my head, I mean, I was looking for a Model A for about a year and a half. When that car first popped in my head, it was kind of like everything else. You know, my motorcycle was built, you know, everything I did to it was to piss somebody off. You know, I was a bagger at night. I rode a bagger when I was 19. Everybody else had chrome. I was black. You know, everybody else had, old man bike. Well, mine made over 100 horse. You know, this and and then I wanted a road glide. Me and her converted it to a road glide. You know, it's always been, I always want to live on that edge of making people question it. So the Model A, when it's at ride height, people will think, oh, that's just a traditional hot rod. And then, lay it on its ass, you know, and then make people.
I love that. So obviously you're going to bag it. I saw the picture. So you've got a 4-link rear. You're still running the traditional straight axle front. Is that correct?
Yep. It is going to be on a traditional front end.
Not knocking it by one bit. I'm just curious as to why you would do that versus independent. Because my dad's car, we went independent front.
Yeah.
And I honestly really wished he would have stayed straight axle. But what your input?
So the reason that I the reason I kept straight axle is, to me, and this is just my opinion, Model A should have a straight axle. 32 should have traditional straight axle. Where we're pushing the limits is I'm actually putting airbags in the leaf springs. So where the transverse leaf spring is going to be 2 control arms that meet in the middle where the leaf spring attaches to the cross member, and it's going to go down. It's going to connect to the front end just like it looks normal. And then there's going to be 2 2500 series bags that mount on top of those arms into the cross member. So when it's laid all the way out, you won't see the bags at all. When it's aired up at ride height, the radiator cover, the grill shell, is going to cover the bags. So unless you were to climb under the car and look forward, you'll never see the bags.
Sweet.
So, so I can take that car to a Lone Star Roundup. I could take it to a traditional, you know, an Invasion. I could take it to a more traditional show and leave it at ride height, and it'll fit right in. But I can also take it to Mini Nats, Lone Star Throwdown, Slam Fest, and it'll fit in there. It's a better ride. It does add a little bit of complexity to the suspension. But, you know, that car, I wanted it to kind of bridge a gap. So it's 95 years old. Some of the technology is later model. Some stuff I kept old school to keep it that way. You know, it was just more of a preference thing. If we do the 54, I'll put Mustang 2. I'll put independent front suspension on it. Just because it has fenders. It may end up with an LS because it has a hood. You know, it'll just come down to, if that's the car that Ashley wants and that's the car that we build for her, it'll just come down to what I can find at the time. You know, if I can find a $450, $500 LS motor, then it'll get an LS. If I come across a $400, $500 small block 350, well, we'll be building a small block. You know, it's whatever. We're going to try to use what we have for the most part.
I get that. Trust me. That's what I do. We use what we have.
I had the 4-inch drop axle that's going under the Model A. I had originally bought a 32 pickup. That is the straight axle that was under that truck. So, I had the wheels I'm going with Mob Steels. I had bought center caps that we thought were going to fit Dad's wheels. They don't fit. So they have Ford logos, so they can't go on the 54. So I'm hoping that the Mob Steels accept those center caps, and just, and anything. We have 2 shelves in the garage. We have a shelf for the 29 build, and then we have a shelf for stuff that I'm not tossing because I might need it for something different, or if someone calls me and goes, "Hey man, do you happen to have this?" Well, yeah, I got one. Come get it. I was fortunate.
Exactly.
I was fortunate. The 54, when we got it, I went through and I did shocks and stuff because it was retardedly low. And I thought that's why it was. I thought it was sagging. It turns out it was just stupidly low. So I put stock springs back in it. It still sits lower than stock, but it is what it is. I lifted the rear end 2 inches. In that process, the lower control arm bolt for a 54 Chevrolet has a weird thread pitch. I screwed the nut on a little bit. I put an impact on it, and I ugga-duggaed it, and it didn't like the ugga-duggas and stripped. So I took a regular nut and ugga-dugged it on, and Gasser Garage was like, "Hey man, I heard that you fucked your shit up. I got one because I don't use that garbage, but I got one behind the garage. I'll send it to you." I was fortunate enough that he had my back. So if someone and I'm not the old guy or the older generation or whatever you want to say, but if a young cat or somebody that's even older or my generation is missing, hey, I need headlight buckets, I got a set. I'm not using them, but they're on the shelf. Will I ever use them? Maybe. I also got a set of small lights that I bought because they were going on the 32 truck. I stuck them up against the Model A body and they're way too small. So they're on the shelf. I may use them, I may not. It is what it is. I really want to, I tried to use as much as I could. The Model A, there's not much left of the body, or other than the body that's getting used. But I still have that roller, and if somebody wants, the wishbones or whatever for it, and I'll make a deal. I'll sell the roller. I don't care.
I wanted to ask you, are you going to chop it, or are you going to keep it factory height?
So that car is, we're trying to make Turkey Rod Run in Daytona, which is Thanksgiving weekend.
And I'm hoping to meet you there.
Okay, awesome.
I may or may not have my hot rod. I may have to come with my tow pig, but I still want to meet you when you come to that Turkey Run.
Well, we will be there. We'll either be the 54 will either go the 34 of my mom and dad's or the 29. I hope the 29 goes. But if I don't get some testing on it, I'm not going to go and embarrass myself.
So, I don't blame you one bit.
So, because I don't want...
I want to meet you when you come. And
well, we'll be there.
And my wife's 2020 Blazer.
Yeah. And that's another thing that we try to push. I don't care what it is.
It's all about the camaraderie. So
well, and also like new stuff, it doesn't tickle my fancy, but if a badass Z01 Camaro is sitting there, I'm not going to walk by it. I'm going to go look at it. Or a C8 Corvette. Every time I see one, I go look at it. I don't want one, but I'm going to go look at it.
we'll gladly welcome a stock Jeep, whatever. Just get out and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing when it comes to car meets. Get out and enjoy. It really doesn't matter what you're in.
Oh, and a lot of times,
as long as you're not a douche.
a lot of times when we go places, you know, I've said it numerous times, like, I'll send Ashley on a mission. You know, we'll go through and we'll take all the pictures for the podcast and for us and, you know, memories and stuff like that. And then I'll tell her, hey, go back and take a picture of every single one of these cars that have crossover steering. Or, hey, go take a picture of how they did their cow steering, because I'm going to have to go with cow steering on the 29 because of the suspension going up and down. I can't run crossover. So, you know, just getting ideas and talking to people, you know, being like, hey, why did you do that? Oh, I did it because of this. Oh, that makes sense. I wasn't thinking of that. I mean, I just had to we had bought, matter of fact, tonight, right before we hopped on the podcast, I had bought steering arms. They're flat steering arms. I had mounted them behind the axle. I got the wishbones tonight, and they don't fit. So I had to flip the crossover to the front. I didn't really want to run a front crossover, but that's what I'm going to have to do unless I can find some drop arms, and then I'll have to take it all back apart again. But it is what it is. You know, if that's what's going to hold the car up, well, I guess we're going to have a bar across the front end. You know, but yeah, definitely we'll be at Turkey. You know, that's one show that we make every year. So what is a show or event that you try to make every year?
Honestly, I don't have very many. What I'm known for is my own shows.
Okay.
I try to put together shows that benefits a local school, and on top of that, I put together events that promotes wounded vets. So those two are my passion.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for wanting to put on shows, because I am on the struggle bus with trying to put together our show.
Oh, dude, it's a butt whooping. It will wear you out.
I had a perfect location. It was going to be awesome. It was in our small town. It was cool. Like, everything was great. I went and talked to them, and they're like, it's going to be this much. And I'm like, well, that's not bad. If I get a couple people like that, that's fine. And then they're like, oh, by the way, you only have access to this. And I'm like, well, that's only like 10 cars. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying to put 100. And they're like, no, we can't do that.
So, and the way I put things together when it comes to a car show, try to do 450 and expect less than that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to wheeling, you're going to get 100 plus.
Oh, yeah.
Because your wheeling community, as soon as you say it, all funds are going to wounded vets, you just won. You just won the lottery. Mm-hmm. And your wheeling buddies will take care of you every freaking time.
Yep.
So I have to say, I've said it once, but four-wheel to heel, if you don't support any other wounded vets, go support four-wheel to heel.
We'll put that in the show notes too.
Well, if I did one thing on this podcast and sent one person to four wheel to heel, I just won.
No, we'll follow it, and we'll also put it in the show notes because we definitely want to support everything that, like I said, man, the veterans are what makes us able to do what we do. And
so I get to sit around camp and get to barbecue for them, and you hand them their food because they may be in a wheelchair and can't make their way up to the grill. So just being able to hand them their dinner and for them to say thank you, like that.
yeah.
I'll tell you what, your allergies will go nuts.
Yeah, I had that problem on the Tuesday live.
Your eyes will run.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of dust out there.
Yes.
So what's a show that you've never been to that you'd like to go to?
So, honestly, I really don't know because I've been on Hot Rod Power Tour drag week. I have never been on drag week, and I've never been on Rocky Mountain. So those two definitely, and that's what I'm building that 66 for.
Yeah, I want to do Sick Week.
I'm going to do that in my uncle's honor.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have Sick Week down here, and it's in January.
You want to go to Sick Week?
I want to do Sick Week, but not race. I want to just get like 30 or 40 classic like Model A's and 54 Chevys that are laying on their ass and just go cruise with the Sick Ward. Just be like, yeah, we did 1,000 miles in our hot rods. You know, that's
for sure.
I would like to try. One of my goals is to eventually be able to do a power tours type thing here. You know,
so I've been doing power tour since 91, 92.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I love the hell out of it. I love the camaraderie. Yes. I love the food community and the hot rod community because of we get along. Everybody loves each other, and we're going to take care of each other. So my company, I run my business based on that premise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take care of you. Yep. If you come to me as a customer, you just became family.
Yep.
And you are going to feel that because I'm going to take care of you.
And that's what I like about the drag and drive stuff is, you know, you see two guys at a track and they're battling it out. They're beating the shit out of their cars to try to beat the other man. And then they're driving and, you know, they're clustered up. So those two cars, you know, ran 3 or 4 passes to try to a little bit better each time, getting, you know, this guy gets a little better, then that guy gets a little better. This guy gets they push each other to get better. But then on the road, if either one of those cars break down, the guy that's, you know, if he's in second place and the guy in first place is broke, he pulls over and tries to help because he wants to beat him correctly. You know, and if you're out, you're out. But if you can be helped, you know, it's a community.
If I can help you, Dad Burn, I'm going to help you.
You know, I want to take it right.
I would expect the same thing from you.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised that way, and I like to think that most people were raised that way in the hot rod and off-road community.
Definitely. And that's that was why we started the cruise, was because, back 20, 30 years ago, people would get together and say, okay, we're rolling over to Daytona for Turkey Rod Run. We'll use that. It's a local show. It's 2.5 hours from us. There's 10 cars rolling over there, and they would all go. And if something happened, the other 9 guys would pull over and figure out, okay, well, can we fix it? Or do we need to just push it off in that parking lot and come back and get it? Or what can be done? Can we limp it to Daytona and fix it in Daytona? It's everybody's helping everybody, and I don't want to say we've lost that.
That's the way it should be.
I don't want to say we've lost it, but like, people don't get out and drive their shit anymore. And it's like, no. You got a beautiful car, man. Like, get out. I want to see, and don't get me wrong, Grand National Roadster Show or America's Best Roadster, Riddler winners, like, they're beautiful cars. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking shit on that car. But
no, of course not.
But if you go out, the best one, and I read the article, and I don't remember the guy who it was, but he won. It wasn't America's Best Roadster, but he was at Grand National inside, and he won a trophy. And the guy's like, all right, well, back your trailer in here. And he's like, back my trailer in? He goes, he goes, I sent the trailer home when it got here. And he's like, they're like, what? And he goes, I'm driving back. And I think it was like to Arizona or something. But the guy goes out and he's grabbing gears and throwing smoke because the car's done. It's never going to win another it's never going to win another Grand National. It's never going to win another one of these. So get out and drive it. And I want to say it was a soft top, and he dropped the fucking roof and drove that bitch in the rain back to Arizona, having a blast. I'm good with that. Get out and drive your stuff.
My whole point with the 66 is I want to drive it, and I want to embarrass people.
That's what it is.
Yeah, a driver. My goal is a low 9-second quarter. We don't have a whole lot of. We only have 1/4 mile track here in DFW. The rest are 1/8 mile. So when it comes to 1/8 mile, I want to run a high 4.
That's quick for a full-size truck.
High 4s at 150, 160 mile an hour, because you've got a nice little section right in front of the house that is perfect for that.
And that's a lot of, we've lost a lot of the building your stuff to get out and just enjoying it. And that goes back to social media. Does it look good for a picture? I don't care if it looks good for a picture. Does it get out and drive? Do you drive it? Like, that's, and also on that same note, I will preface this and say, we got invited to Drag and Destroy for this year that got canceled. If we would have, if we would have brought our 54,
yes, I hated that.
If we would have brought the 54, it would have been on a trailer.
Yeah. Well, hell, you're coming from Florida. That's a little bit of a drive.
But with that being said, if next year I can get 5 or 6 guys that want to go to Drag and Destroy, and we're going to drive, and they want to drive, let's go. I'm all about it. I'm just not doing it by myself.
I get that.
I need somebody to carry my luggage, because that car ain't going to have no room for anything. But it's going to have room for me and Ashley and like a couple lawn chairs. But that's it.
You got the 66, and you got a a woven trailers here in the fence row that I'm going to build a trailer that will carry spare tires, whatever I need, so that I can go do the drag and drives. Yes, I've got a pickup, but shit in the bed of that damn thing.
And that's another thing is people get lost in, and I get it. I'm gonna have, me and my dad were talking about it. I'm gonna have a lot of money invested in the 29 when it's done.
Yeah, no doubt. I couldn't tell you how much money I've got tied up just in the engine. But my biggest thing is I want to go, and when kids come through the pits or just walking around and they get excited.
Yep.
That's what makes my day.
Well, I've talked about it numerous times.
If you can turn one kid, if you can turn one into hot rodder, then we just did our job.
Oh, and that's I've said that numerous times. I love taking the 54 to go get gas, and the 29 is going to be the exact same way, because grown-ups have a story about that car. They recognize that car, but kids, they ain't never seen one. So, to them, it's 400 years old, and it's awesome. So, and you want to sit in it? Yeah, sit in it.
I want to add to that. My son is 15, and he loves cars.
There you go.
And he has, I want to say that I did a really good job on teaching him how to appreciate a cool car.
It is, I don't want to say it's lost, because we seen, was it last year at Turkey Rod Run, that little kid was dragging that truck across the Meekum truck. I was amazed at the amount of misbehaved adults. Yeah. The kids don't know no better.
Yeah.
But if you go through,
you have to teach the kids. You have to teach them.
If you go through the pictures from Turkey Rod Run, every picture that Ashley caught that I'm in, my hands are behind my back. And I don't care how nice the car is. It's not mine.
You don't touch.
But on that same note, if a kid walks up to me and goes, "Hey, I really love your car. Can I sit in it?" Yes, sir. Every single time.
You bet your butt. We'll let you in. Same thing with my crawler. We got a trail rig / rock bouncer. And I go to local car shows or local events right here in town. I live in a real small town, less than 1,000 people. But when we have get-togethers, I will always take my rig, and the kids are just drawn to it. And I will let each and every one hop in, enjoy yourself, just don't hit any of the switches.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we were all those kids. I said it in the live. There was a banner at one of the shows, and it was somewhere in this land, somewhere in this show is a little kid that wants to be you, be the best you can be. It's so true.
And I saw you post that. I've seen it before, and I agree completely. I want to be that. I want to be that guy that that kid looks up to. I want that kid in 10 years say, I met this guy, and he was really freaking cool.
Yep. And the same thing goes for adults, too. You know, we've ran into a couple, you know, I'll call them kids. They're not kids. But, you know, people that are early 20s. You know, I'm mid-30s. I've run into people that are mid-20s. Oh, I can't do that. Well, you can. Like, you may not be able to start with a big body caddy on 24s and laid on its ass, but, you know, go get you something. Go get you something that you like.
What? You can start out with a C10 and upgrade the disc brakes and a little small block, and you know what? You've got a hot rod.
Oh, yeah. In Texas. You can't do that in Florida. I buy a Cadillac for cheaper than I can buy a C10 here. C10s are gold here.
Oh, here they're a dime a dozen.
I know. I have a buddy that he was on the podcast too, and we were talking after the podcast, and I was like, "Yeah, man, like Model A, I'm looking for one. I was looking hard for one," and he's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "A 3031 sedan," and he's like, "Man, they're all over the place out here, like 25, $3,000," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can find." Yeah. I'm like, "I can find a body for that." He goes, "No, I'm talking like I can drive it on a trailer and bring it to you." And I'm like, "There ain't no way." And he sent me 5 or 6 listings, and I'm like, "God damn, when you coming to Florida? Like, can you bring me one of them?" Because
my dad, that 28 that we're building, I drove down to Houston and picked that car up for $2,250. Zero rust, no cancer. I picked it up. I called my buddy that is a deputy sheriff for Colorado County, and he said, "I know where that car came from." I said, "Really?" He goes, "It's been stored inside a house, air conditioned, for the last 37 years. I went and bought that car, $2,250.
I paid more than that for the one that we're building.
No cancer.
And it has all the cancer.
So, you know, those cars, they got cancer down in the bottom quarter and up around the fuel tank.
Yep.
On the window. Zero. This car came with all the paperwork. He had the car painted green with a brush from Ford. But we have the paperwork from the day that it was new.
That's
to where it was painted with a brush.
Yeah, that's so when we bought ours, it had a vinyl top that was about 90% complete, and I took it off, and I should not have took it off because it looked way better with it on than after I pulled it off. They put galvanized sheet metal to fill the roof hole, and it is nowhere near straight. But it is what it is. The more I took off, when I start, like the interior, it looks so good. And I felt everything. It looks good. It had a patch panel on the rear door. But I was like, yeah, no big deal. Like, I'll fix that. I had a couple quarter size, and I mean quarter, by the spotlights on the cowl. It looked solid other than that. Started ripping the interior out, and I'm like, oh, there's rust there. Oh, there's rotted wood. And it's a 29 Murray 4-door sedan. So it has no metal in the floor other than the seat pans. So
it's new.
Yeah, it's a Murray.
Wow.
So it's actually a 29 Murray city sedan. So it had the upgraded back seat that it was weird, but it's sitting out there now. All that's gone because there's no room for a back seat because the kick up in the rear goes to the bottom of the window.
Yep.
18 inches of kick up in the rear.
I'm curious. So, see, you've got front fenders. Are you going to run a rear fender?
No, I'm not running any fenders.
Okay, so no fenders.
Zero. Because the back tires are going to be slightly above the windows.
It's going to be way above.
Yeah, it's going to be on the... Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. Because the only reason I ask is one of the pictures I saw, it had front fenders. So I wasn't sure if
yes. When I bought the car, it had front and rear fenders, and the running boards and everything like that. But I'm going with a taller tire. Well, no. The tires are actually slightly smaller diameter. They're wider, obviously.
So what size are you planning on going with? Just out of curiosity.
245/40 20s in the front and 275/40 20s in the rear.
Perfect. So 10.5-inch rear.
Yep, and 9.5 front. On an 8.5, or on an 8-inch and a 9-inch rear wheel.
Nice.
3.5-inch backspace.
Wait, that's going to be a nice fit.
So the one thing that we fought was the rear end. It's got a 4th gen Camaro rear end in it because it's pretty much the widest that I could source. And I'm probably still going to have to run spacers on the rear because the Model A body goes out as it goes up. So, like, if I wasn't going as low, then it would have fit in the fender wells and everything would have been happy. But because I'm going so high up, I'm probably going to have to cut the body for the disc brakes, for the calipers and stuff.
We're going to have to.
So, it's going to be close. Looking at it, sitting in the picture, I even asked on the live. In the picture, it looks way closer than it actually is. And the body still has to go in a little bit to meet the floor. So the disc brakes, the calipers may fit, but I'll probably cut a little bit out just to be safe, because it's way better to be safe than crunch a body and now I gotta do body work that I'm not really capable of doing. I'm not a body guy.
Right. Nope, you get that. I understand.
So eventually, well, the plan is to put like bomber style seats in it. I have a 97 Caravan second row seat that my dad bought to try to put in his 34 pickup. And as long as I don't have to jack it up like 10 inches over a tunnel, if I can make it work, that may end up in there, but it'll probably end up with single bomber buckets. But once we get that set, then I can do and figure out how much the roof can come down. But as it looks now, I'm going to be sitting about middle of the back doors. So.
Oh, wow. Well, it's got to be comfy.
Well, and that was the thing with, the 32 that I started with. I really wanted to do a 32 truck because everyone has 32 coupes. There's 32 sedans. Right. You don't really ever see a 32 truck. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. Well, then my mom and dad bought a 34 truck and same cab. And mine was more channeled. And watching them get in and out of that truck made me not really want to do that every time I get in and out of it. And so it has the big, which he could put a shorter shifter in it, and that may make it a little bit better. But the shifter itself makes you kind of have to fight your knee over or lay it on the shifter, and then chance of knocking it into neutral and all that.
We've got a buddy that has a 28 Dodge pickup.
Same thing.
And we built a turbocharged 4-cylinder with a 5-speed. And it's a bitch to get in and out of.
Yeah. My original plan when I was on the 32 build was I was going to get a cable operated shifter and just mount it between the seats. Like back behind where, you'd have legroom at least. But a gentleman I'd posted the whole car or the whole setup for sale, and a kid reached out to me and was like, well, I really don't need a frame. I was like, okay, well, I'll sell you just the body. And he's like, okay, well, and I was like, what's the plan for the truck? And he was like, bare metal. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll sell it to you. Because that was my plan. I was going to bare metal the truck. The Model A may end up bare metal. I named it a color. So now I might have to paint it. But kind of dig bare metal. But it'll be, it'll never be done completely. I mean, it's Turkey Rod Run. It'll be like rendition 1. And then our show that we're going to try to put on in January, it'll be like rendition 2. And then eventually I'll get it, but I want to get it running and driving. That way there's stuff on the 54 that I want to do, but I kind of don't want to not have something old to drive around, so I can't hard brake both of them at the same time. So once the Model A gets running and driving where we have something to drive around, then I can address a couple little things on the 54 that bug me. So, well, what's one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into the car culture?
Don't care what anybody else has to say. Do what you want. Do you, and you'll be happy.
Hell yeah. Fuck the haters.
There are a couple things I wanted to bring up while we were discussing. I've got a couple rigs that really strikes my heart and I'm really, really proud of. One is a buggy that my buddy Nathan and I built together for a buddy, Kelly Durham, that passed away during COVID. And we'll just leave it at that. But it's on portals, 4-link, 6-liter, 4L80 on 43-inch stickies. It is the epitome of a badass rig. Something that I'm really proud of. After Kelly passed, he left it with my buddy Nathan. Nathan owns Fokker Fab down in Kerrville. Kerrville is South Texas. But Nathan and I have worked together for many, many years. Another one that kind of hits close to home is a wide open design buggy. This rig is set up to look like a CJ7 Jeep, but it's full tube chassis.
Cool.
I worked on the suspension and the air bumps and engine tuning plus exhaust work. That rig is just insane. It flat works. And then I had to toot my own horn. My own rig is a 76 Scout. We call it the Hill Bitch. We narrowed the chassis 6 inches on each side. Plus did a dovetail front and rear. So the Hill Bitch is, like a better words, it's about half the width that it used to be from the factory. And she's a bad bitch. Small block that my uncle built, it's 13-to-1 compression, runs on propane. She's nasty and a lot of fun.
I have a question on the propane conversions. I've seen that a lot of off-road stuff.
Yeah.
What do you have to change to make a setup like that work?
You need a vaporizer. So when you run your propane line through, it has to go to a vaporizer, which converts it from liquid to vapor. And the way it converts is it uses the engine heat. So instead of running a heater, you run your vaporizer. Converts it to vapor straight to a mixer, aka carburetor. It's that simple.
Do you see similar power, or is it? Why is it common?
So my Scout, I actually got a tunnel ram that I just bought. So I'm going to run dual mixers. So each mixer is rated at 425 CFM. So dual mixers, what's that? 900 CFM. She's going to be wild. It's going to be stupid. But on one mixer, one vaporizer, I can get roughly 8 hours of runtime out of 8-pound tank.
That seems pretty.
My tanks come from a forklift.
Okay.
The whole system comes from a forklift.
Like I said, I've seen that a couple of times, and I just never understood. You know, it has the same power. What are the advantages other than, you know, or what would be the advantage of running propane over another fuel?
All right. So first and foremost, propane is 114 octane.
Okay.
So your engine needs to run a lot more compression. You can run a lot more overlap when it comes to choosing your camshaft. You can build a lot more cylinder pressure. The biggest thing, it doesn't run fuel. It's RevLimit fuel injection. You will never have fuel starvation.
Okay. So that would make sense because you're off camber and, you know, sloshing around instead of having to chase a fuel pickup.
I run my rig, put my rig in places that you really shouldn't, but I can put that son of a bitch straight, nose up, and never run out of fuel. As long as I've got oil pressure, it's going to run.
Okay. That makes sense. Like I said, I was just wondering. But that makes a lot of sense because in the off-road where you're off camber, running away from fuel pickups or running away from, your sumps and stuff like that, okay.
I couldn't tell you how many rigs that I've built that run propane. I couldn't tell you how many rigs that we've run LS engines. LS engine, if you've got a mat at the bottom of the fuel cell, a Holly mat, you're not going to run out of fuel pressure. But when it comes to propane, you will never run out because it's always under pressure. You're looking at 3,000 psi on propane. So if we run out, we can take a propane tank from camp, flip it upside down, and I've got an adapter that's about 18 inches long. So I can run my rig of a upside down propane tank just to get me back to camp.
Very cool. All right, baby, hit us with the dates.
All right, so this weekend, Friday is the third Friday cruising in downtown Inverness, July 19th from 5 to 8. And then, of course, this same Sunday, July 21st, we have our monthly cruising. We are meeting at the Cove in Inverness about 11:30. But if you're in the Bushnell area, meet us at Napa parking lot about 10:30 and we'll cruise over together.
All right. Is there anybody that you'd like to shout out?
Yes, sir. Obviously, my shirt here, Big Ben 4x4. They are a great sponsor. I've been wheeling with them for over 20 years. Sean Cross, Sean Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I can't think of anybody else other than my customers are awesome. My wife and my son, because they put up with my BS.
Yeah, it takes a special person to deal with us.
It does. And my wife Kelly is something special. So Farkafab, Sean Cross, Cross the Line. Come check out RevLimit Off-Road.
Definitely.
Just because it says off-road doesn't mean anything. We do all kinds of hot rods.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank Kelly Broman with low income balling on a budget.
Yes, sir.
Because that's what we're all about, balling on a budget. We don't have a lot of money in our pockets, but dead burnt, we're going to do the best we can.
Yes, sir.
You and your wife, thank you so much for having me. It means a lot.
Well, we're trying to bridge a gap across all car culture, and we're not just into hot rods. We're off-road, mini trucks, all of it. So when we get a chance to sit down and talk to people, from all avenues, especially if they cross lines like that too, it makes a big difference. So we want to say a special thank you to RevLimit Off-Road.
Thank you. And don't forget to check out Throttle Addict using the code word HOTROD. You get to save 15% off.
And definitely go check out BP Customs. And until next time, guys, get out and drive your shit.
See ya.
Later.